I had been in team sports my entire life. You give yourself an out a lot. You can blame your teammates and you can blame your coach. Weightlifting was like a hard line. It's like there is zero excuse. I was doing like vlogs around my day with CrossFit. I sent one of my vlogs to CrossFit Reddit. This guy started commenting, and it was actually, again, one of those moments that changed my life. You don't know what your goal is. You're also not that crazy impressive. What is it that we're supposed to care about? But there was another thing he said. He's like, what are you really good at? And I was like, well, I'm very fucking good at teaching the snatch and the clean and jerk. And I released my first official video after that. And people were like, this is pretty good. I really like this. This is cool. I have never exploded in 8 years. If I had exploded, I might be burnt out. I might be done. I might be on to different ventures. I have these moments again where I'm like, oh, I love this. What am I talking about? I love YouTube. I love training. Those moments are fewer and far between for the viralized person. There is no making it anywhere. You don't make it. Enjoy what you're doing, but strive to grow. The word expect does work for some people. I know Matt Fraser very well, and his whole thing was high expectation, and it tortured him and made him who he was. The very word to expect, you're predicting the future? You can't predict the future. That's insane. It takes a level of insanity to be a champion.
Mr. Telander, how's Miami?
It's good. It's a bit dreary. It's like very UK summer.
Well, that's kind of what I really want to touch on first of all, which is we met up when you were last in the UK, and I've just recently been to the US, so I'm very much looking for comparison. I'm drawing the comparisons and the stereotypes that we all look for. So, what were your biggest takeaways from the UK? The good and the good and the bad.
Culturally, I think culturally your floor is higher than ours. So, for instance, I stayed at like a hotel when I was in Edinburgh, and it was an incredible breakfast service in the morning. Incredible. That like is just non-existent in America. That sort of service. Right? Like you might get a hotel breakfast that is absolute dog shit here. But that's what I mean. Like just like the kind of base run of the mill service stuff, like your public transit in London was fantastic.
I thought it was good in New York, to be fair. I was pleasantly surprised with how efficient it was there.
New York is pretty good. Yeah. I think you guys adopted the not having, like you can just tap your credit card. You guys did that before us, which was nice. But I think, and then I think that's part of it. It's like, you guys, I think the population is less. I mean, it is less. I don't think that. So that means that the public offering is greater. I think personally, but then the ceiling here in America could potentially be greater. I think my roommate Chris Williamson, he always brought this up. He always talked about the cutting down of the tall poppy syndrome in the UK. Basically, someone shines above the rest. It's kind of looked down upon because, in all fairness, it does get a bit annoying. The ego can get high. I think in the UK and Ireland, people are very good at being like, "Hey, man, don't get too big for your britches. Don't be an egotistical asshole." That's for Americans. Americans do that, right? So there is a trade-off there for sure. That's culturally, that's the biggest thing. And I'd assume those things were true, but that once I visited there was definitely the case.
What was your...
So it was a nice breath of fresh air going to the UK. I loved it.
Favorite location?
Edinburgh, for sure.
I knew the answer.
Sure.
I knew the answer. What do you think of Sunderland?
It's the best, dude.
Sunderland v Edinburgh.
I don't know. That's a close one, man.
Yeah, that's a common comparison. If you go on TripAdvisor, people often go like for like Edinburgh for Sunderland, to be fair.
The people in Sunderland were like, why are you here? So I did a seminar, and because I was staying in Newcastle, I did a seminar at a CrossFit gym in Sunderland. And the people who own the gym in Sunderland were like, hey, man, you shouldn't be here. It was so funny.
We're very glad that you are, but but we didn't expect you to respond to that email. It's the Northeast is exceptionally friendly though, like in a really genuine way, which is
I
awesome.
love it. Yeah,
it's my biggest takeaway is exactly as you've said. It just the scale of the ceiling in the US versus the UK is just a totally different league, and you can taste it in the air, you can feel it, and yeah, whilst you said the service at breakfast here can be fantastic, we don't then need to put 20% on the bill afterwards, which is something I always struggle with culturally, but I'm sure it's just second nature for you at this point, isn't it?
for sure. And I've been performing in music lately, and tips are very big. I mean, I'm lucky to have, income in other ways, but the guys in my band, like I'm able to pay them a lot more because of the tips. So it's like have much more respect for tipping culture in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I think it's one of the biggest narratives between the UK and the US that people just love to have is why it is structured that way. But it is structured that way in America, and that's the way things are. So it's kind of just swallow that pill and crack on. But we both get a lot of value from lifting. It's fair to say, and those that don't understand lifting often can't see why it is so valuable and why the arc of the gym bro can be so powerful. And you, correct me if I'm wrong, you got into lifting from playing football in high school background, and then eventually dabbled in CrossFit, and then found yourself just falling in love with weightlifting. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, yeah. I played a ton of sports growing up, like everything from swimming and diving. So like I did diving as well, so it's just kind of like a gymnastic type sport. But then I did track and field, and then there's 3 seasons that you in school that you play in. Um, there's the fall, winter, and spring seasons, and then summer you have off. And so for me, it was fall was football, winter was basketball, and spring was lacrosse. And I was able to get a scholarship to the University of Vermont for playing lacrosse. Um, but I was offered some other scholarships for football and a number of different things. But I took that, and then after I graduated, I felt like I still had so much more to give. At 22 years old, you're like hardly cracking into what your potential is. So I think I saw like a Men's Journal article, and I think it was Rich Froning or someone like talking about the CrossFit Games, but then it was also and mind you, this was 2012 or 2013-ish, like maybe before 2013, so 2012. And Rich Froning, they were doing a little piece on him, and then they had talked about Murph, and I was like, damn, that's a really cool concept. Like, of all the training sessions that I did, I never thought about like running and then doing push-ups and then doing squats and then doing pull-ups and then running again. Like I never once were we told we were going to do that. And there's reason for that, mind you. When you're playing a sport, right? There's reasons why it's almost like unnecessary. But having said that, I was inspired, and this was actually a changing point in my life. The gym that I wanted to go to hadn't really opened yet, so they didn't have like a website up or anything. But so there was another gym. I called, and I was worried about coming in. Like I don't know what to expect. And like the guy just goes, "No, no, man, come in." He's like, "You were an athlete?" He's like, "Oh no, dude, come on in." I came in that day. I met up with these guys. They were football players. They were ex-football players, all 3 of them. And they ended up being, a huge inspiration for my future growth in that. I was in the gym from that point on every single day. And then we started focusing on Olympic weightlifting together as like a unit. And that just changed my whole entire life. So if I had gone to that other gym, I don't know if that would have ever happened, which is very interesting to think about.
It's crazy, isn't it? How that little decision and that little change in direction ultimately led to what is fed a career in many ways, but a real passion and a very high level of competition. So what was it about weightlifting, which is a very skillful, very binary in many ways sport? Why were you drawn to that as a pursuit from that point onwards?
I think it's because people couldn't, in my gym, like they just couldn't do it. And I just sent it. So like people could not like snatch, like do a full snatch from the floor. Like they just couldn't wrap their heads around it. And one day I was like, okay, I'm going to hit my hips. I'm just going to squat and see what happens. And it worked. And I was like, okay, this is fun. Like now I can kind of do this thing that not many people are able to do. And I was doing it at like 135 pounds or 60 kilos. And I was just like, let's keep doing CrossFit. Let's keep going and going. And then, um, yeah, it was just that feeling of like, oh, I can do something that like other people can't. And like, I want to see how good I can get at that thing. That was like the raw beginning of it. But I think what drew me to weightlifting, and even CrossFit was I had been in team sports my entire life. And so for me, team sports are really tough one to manage because you give yourself an out a lot. You can blame your teammates and you can blame your coach. You can not get played and you can also not get the ball. Like people forget that, like, you know what I mean? You can not get the ball. You can not get plays called your way. You can not get on the fucking field. Your teammate could fumble. There's plenty of things that can happen. And I've always been given that excuse, that way out. And weightlifting was like a hard line. It's like there is zero excuse. That's it. Like it's your fault. Everything is your fault. So make it your fault or don't. Like get better. And so for me, that was like the biggest stress relief I've ever felt in my fucking life. Like I can't tell you how important that was to me. It was literally like, oh my God, I was addicted to it. So I was like, okay, let's go. Like I'm going to push this thing really hard. Pretty much did a snatch or a clean and jerk every single day for a year. Like every single fucking day. And I'm not even kidding you. Monday through Sunday. There was no day off. I was obsessed. I was absolutely obsessed. I used to watch myself in the mirror while I would like mimic a snatch.
American Psycho mode. One barbell overhead pointing in the mirror.
I would I would grab my dad or my mom and I would explain concepts to them that they didn't give a shit about. You know what I mean?
Mom,
come
watch this. This Irish guy in a tank top squat 300 kilos. Come watch Clarence Kennedy. Come on.
Yeah. I was dreaming snatch and clean and jerk.
Do you think it's control that was the draw? Because for me, powerlifting being so black and white in an otherwise very grey world was what really made me love it for so many years. But I think it's
and
input
it was
the outputs,
also
isn't it?
I had a thing that I was consistent in. I couldn't get a job. It's fucking crazy. Like couldn't get a job, couldn't hold a job, living in my parents' house after school. It was the one thing where it's like I know I'm going to the gym. My life. It was the only thing that I knew I was going to do.
How much? So
it was like, hell yeah.
How much of an impact did the content you were consuming online have on your passion for that?
Everything. Yeah. It was everything in the world to me. 2013 YouTube around weightlifting was everything. It's the only thing I cared about.
I think 2013.
I basically stopped watching
YouTube, peak YouTube fitness as a whole. I'd say.
Probably. Yes, probably. And that's pure nostalgia, 2013 was just amazing. I can tell you the videos. It was Liu Xiaojun in Paris World Championships, Dmitry Klokov, and this guy called Akayev Kazumurat in Warsaw World Championships. And then there was Kendrick Ferris.
Yep.
I don't know if you know who that is. Yep. Kendrick Ferris in like University Worlds was the name of it. That's a video that's just so inspiring to me. And then, the list goes on and on, but those were the big ones that I just, was crazy. I didn't even think of like making a YouTube until 4 years later.
I was the same, funnily enough. It was Masthetics, Max Tuning, Guzman, Michael Corey, Lean Body Lifestyle as he was known back in the day. All these just fitness YouTubers that were just a core part of my evenings when I was learning to lift and learning about nutrition. And again, as both sitting here as people that produce content on YouTube, never did I once feel brave enough to even consider the notion of doing something myself.
Well, to be fair, I didn't follow YouTubers.
Just athletes? Was the
So
people you listed were just weightlifters?
it was just
weren't they? Yeah.
I just wanted to watch videos. Like I didn't conceptually YouTube, and I swear, not until very recently, I feel like the pop the majority of America doesn't look at YouTube the way that we look at it, where it's like this is a personality, this is a social media extension for some people. You know, for me, it was like, oh, I want to watch Liu Xiaojun lift. Like, I don't want to watch a YouTuber present Liu Xiaojun. I want to watch weightlifting happen. I don't give a fuck, you know, but YouTube, I can just search into it because it's just Google, right? And now I can just watch videos of that thing. I didn't know conceptually what YouTube was. Like, I didn't think about content creation at all. It was not a thing for me. This is just a place where videos exist. And so I'll explain my process going into YouTube. If this is an interesting segue, we can go right into that. If you're keen on
let's
that.
do it because it's for me it was the aspirate that the YouTubers I engage with. It was because I felt like the journey that I was on as an individual was. I felt like I could relate to the people I was seeing online when everybody around me wouldn't or couldn't. So it was the community that I was missing in my day to day I found on YouTube through the journey that I was going on, which in many ways was kind of like I was looking at the lifestyle that I was trying to create for myself through the lens of these YouTubers, in the same way that you were looking at the way that a barbell was moving from A to B through the lens of those athletes.
But that happened to me eventually.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I just had no concept of that. So YouTube just wasn't a thing. Again, it was a place where videos were. It wasn't like a place where I would go and try to see content creators and I would talk about that with my friends. Like we did not have YouTube as like a thing that we would talk about. None of my friends would go on YouTube to follow creators. It was just not a thing. And then I think 2016 or 17, somebody told me about Casey Neistat, and I first off, I went to college for film and television production, and then in high school, you know, for 4 years straight, I took editing classes. Like I was obsessed with making videos, and so when I saw Casey Neistat, it was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, you know, the daily vlog thing, and it was like, that's kind of what I see myself being able to do at some point. And this is really funny because I was kind of like back into CrossFit a little bit. I was doing like vlogs around my day with CrossFit. And I sent one of my vlogs to CrossFit Reddit. And this guy started ripping on me. Have I told you this story?
No. But anything with Reddit is always a thread I want to pull on.
Yeah. This guy started commenting, and it was actually, again, one of those moments that changed my life. But he was like, you know, we don't know what your goal is with these videos. It was just like a vlog, right? We don't know what your goal is. You're not like a super good looking dude, you know. You're also not that like crazy impressive as far as like what you can do. Like, what is it that we're supposed to care about? And I was like, you know, first off, I'm like, fuck you. You know what I mean? To think that was my first initial reaction. But then I was like, he's absolutely right. Like, but there was another thing he said. He's like, what are you really good at? And I was like, well, I'm very fucking good at teaching the snatch and the clean and jerk. Like I promise you I'm very good at that because I've been doing it and I developed a curriculum for, at that time, hundreds of people. I taught how to snatch and clean and jerk. And I found like my own route to doing that in the most efficient way that I could. And so I took all those vlog videos off. I think there was like 5 of them, completely deleted them off of YouTube. They'll never see the light of day. And I released my first official video after that. It was like a 4.5, 5-minute long video talking about some like how to snatch, 3 tips to make you snatch more weight or something. And I put that on the Reddit weightlifting page, and people were like, "This is pretty good. I really like this. This is cool." And I remember I got emails every time I would get a subscriber. And I got like 25 emails one night. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Had a few hundred views. It's like, I can do this because, I've been thinking about that. I have so many videos back here that I could do. So I just did one a day, or sorry, one a week, for, yeah, I mean, the next 7 years. And here I am, So it's been 7 years, which is just crazy to think. Maybe 8, actually. I think 2024 marks my 8th year. I don't know. I'll have to look.
But it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter anymore, really, because it's just what you do and it's what you love. And I think my favorite thing about that,
yes,
in the same way it is for me, is that it's all kind of happened by accident, just because you started putting stuff up online for kind of no purpose other than, yeah, I'm good at this and I'm passionate about it. Not even a let's see what happens. It's just a let's chuck something at the wall, and if it sticks, great. If it doesn't, who cares? And if you just build on that over time, as you have done 8 years later, here we are, and you've got Mordor in the background as you're trolling TikTokers. How the mighty fall. How the mighty fall.
Yeah, exactly. I look, like, also there's the idea of making it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is the most toxic sentence. Making it. Especially like in the music industry. How to make it in the music industry. There is no making it anywhere. You don't make it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
you just have to exist and try to improve. Like, why would you expect to be in a situation where you're content? Why not just, I guess maybe not content, like, enjoy what you're doing, but strive to grow. And if you do that, there is no making it, there's no missing it. It's just,
well, the error is looking for contentment in the future rather than the here and now, isn't it? It's if you're always looking to make it and you're always aspiring to this idealistic point in the future where you've made, quote unquote, it, you'll lose sight of for example, the 8 years that have unfolded before your very eyes. And I think that's one of the main things I got from the time I spent with you in Edinburgh, was that I could tell that you were just very much, decision making was based on what will I enjoy on a day-to-day basis, what is going to allow me to stay content day to day whilst focusing on just growth in general, which I think is a really good way to exist.
Yeah. So this, by the way, I've been playing music my entire life. Like, I say my entire life, but I started playing drums when I was 10. Picked up guitar around 15-ish or whatever. And I, just like YouTube, like, I took time off. Like, all I wanted to do was edit videos, right? That's what I wanted to do when I grew up, was be in production. I found myself into fitness because I just loved it so much. But YouTube gave me an outlet to edit and put videos out. And that was like, cool. I took a break from doing the thing that I loved, right? Because I was like, oh, I'm in fitness now. Now I can combine the two. It's incredible. And so, like, recently I've started playing music again, and it's like, what I see in music now is the same thing that I saw in YouTube when I started YouTube. The 25 emails of like, oh, you gained 25 subscribers, you got a few hundred views. I'm getting that from music. It's like the most fun I've ever had. My group of, I think I have like 16,000 monthly listeners, which is, by the way, on Spotify, it's like, if you have over 1,000, you're in the 99th percentile of Spotify musicians. So if you have and it's the same thing with podcasting.
Yeah.
Right. If you
you only need to make it past episode 6 or something, I think, to be in the top 10%. It's wild.
Exactly. And so my little group, I love them, and all I want to do is just expand them by just a little bit. I don't want to make it. And that is the verbiage that people use in music specifically, because it's like, it's been romanticized to make it as a rock star and stuff like that. But it could be done. It could be said about any profession. So it's very cool to now, again, after having built something up, to now be building something else up and seeing that growth that I was obsessed with, man. Like, Thinking about YouTube when I started making YouTube videos, like it like my heart races. It's like I have this love again. I swear, I can picture myself in 2017, like getting so excited to edit and just sitting and editing for 10 hours straight, or shooting a video or writing a script for a video. Like, I just loved it. And I feel that same thing, passion again. And it's been fun. It's been
Is
fun.
the creative process with music even more rewarding? Because I mean, I am no musician. If I was to start singing now,
Honestly,
it would be
it's
embarrassing.
just so similar. Yeah, it's so similar. It really is. Like my piece of content, but you get rewarded for a good piece of content as music way more than anything else. Because how many times have you listened to the same song?
Yeah.
Like your favorite song. How many times do you think you've listened to it?
I
Like on Spotify.
I looked into this recently. It's Fade to Black by Metallica, and I think last year I listened to it over 430 times. I think it was in the end.
Okay.
Huge
Now,
numbers.
how long is that song? It's a pretty long song,
Yeah.
right? It's probably close to 5 minutes.
Oh,
6
it's
minutes
over.
or
I think it's
something.
six and a half. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I'll check.
So now that 6.5 minute song you've listened 400 times. Can you name a single YouTube video that you've seen over 20 times? You know what I mean? Like that, and some of these videos that these people are making, some of these YouTube videos are incredible. I mean, the production value, the cinematography, the thought behind them, they're incredible. And the reward is nowhere near the reward of good music. However, the barrier to entry to get into music, like I can leverage my audience to, hey, check out my music. But if my music's not good, no one's listening. Like I'm well aware of that. So first thing comes first, like I want to make good music, music that I love and that I think other people might love. But if people don't, they don't. And there's nothing I can do about it. Like Paris Hilton is a super famous, celebrity for God knows what or whatever. And she got into music and it's like, well, you can't just force people to like your music because you're famous. You can't do that. Music is like one of the most protected things that people have. They're not just going to listen to something because some famous person told them or someone they like told them. Like it has to be organic. So I know that. I'm well aware of that. And like I'm obsessed with music just in general like that. So to me it doesn't necessarily matter as much. I love this idea though of having like a small following and just building them up slowly, just like I have before, just like I know that I can, and I'm improving in music too because I'm just playing it so goddamn much lately. Like gigs start coming, and once they start coming, they don't stop, dude. They just, go, go, go. And then all of your friends are like, hey, can you play here? Can you play this? Can you do this? And then you're like, you want to write? You want to, it just explodes. The network explodes. So,
Do you think there's a point where
it's been great.
Do you think there's a point where that could hit a threshold that you would lose that
For
passion,
sure.
lose it? I mean, great example, Lewis Capaldi. He has, quote unquote, by the very definition, made it in show business in every facet of it. He has nailed it. But with that has obviously come, as he's documented excellently on Netflix, a significant downturn in his mental well-being. And I think he's only recently just come back on social media after a huge break to share a few songs about how much he's struggling. And he's been catapulted in the music industry, hasn't he? And I wonder whether it's the rate of the trajectory or the actual end point of the trajectory that's had the damaging effect. But the good thing is, at the very least, he's being so honest and open with it and tackling it head on. But for you, is there a fear that you deal with that you almost want to keep it? There's the fear of success because your music's great. I genuinely love your music. I was shocked when you sent me your first song and I thought, is that Zack singing? That wasn't what I expected at all. I'll admit.
Okay,
Your
so you know what?
persona implies rock music. Your persona implies rock music.
Right. Chris said it's like finding out your mate does porn. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like what the fuck? Like I didn't know you
you're
were
a musician
capable of singing
what?
a song.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you're
Yeah.
good, they like it. If you're bad, they'll take the piss out of you. It's
Of course.
so funny how we're all like, YouTube's the same. Any content creation is the same. Oh, that's weird. Why are you doing that? Oh, actually, he's doing quite well.
Yeah.
My friend does this. It's
Yes.
just a very fine line. But
It's a very fine line. But okay, to answer your question though, are you fearful of success? For me, I know that that's likely not going to happen. I'm just not that guy. Like, I'm friends with Derek. Derek's like one of my closest friends in the
Yep.
industry. And this is just over time because we've become like each other's like confidants as far as like issues that we have. Like we're constantly texting each other like problems and issues and things like that. And he's actually gone more away from content. Like he doesn't really make content as much anymore, and that's because he's got these businesses that are just crazy. Uh, but he had viral moments and he exploded. Like he genuinely exploded. I have never exploded in 8 years, and I don't think I will. And I'm totally cool with that. I'm being serious with you. So like, if I had exploded in the way that Derek has, I might not. I might be burnt out. I might be done. I might be on to different ventures. But I've been able to kind of hang on and just keep making content and have fun. Like at the moment I get disenfranchised with YouTube, I think disenchanted might be the better word. With YouTube, I have these moments again where I'm like, oh, I love this. What am I talking about? I love YouTube. I love training. Like those moments are fewer and far between for the viralized person.
I agree.
For sure.
I agree. When I was
for sure,
I did a video with Matt Does Fitness down at his house. I took him through his first triathlon in, I think it was October 21, and he was talking me through a summer where it was his best summer ever. I think he went from like 800,000 subs to 1.5 million in not long at all. And
that's crazy, bro. That's more than my entire channel, mind you, 3 times more.
Same. So, like he was, I was at this point, I wasn't even at 50,000 subs. I was like, okay, great, yeah, thanks, Matt. Just very much rubbing salt in the wound here. But he was saying every week he'd wake up on a Monday and like miserably just end himself thinking about what can I do to go viral this week? What can I do if I eat pink food for 24 hours, all these things that are no way aligned with the reason that you started the channel in the first place. And it bore results in the end, but he said that it really damaged his relationship with what he was doing, which was producing entertaining content that he'd kind of watch himself and enjoy making in the process. Because he's a creative guy. What he brings to life is very entertaining, but chasing that virality meant that the moments of disenchantment were pretty severe for a little while. And I think again, second buzzword in the fitness industry in the world at the moment is recovery is number one. Second one is authenticity. Yeah. And if you lose sight of that, then I think it's game over.
And let me be clear though. Like I would love it. I would revel in it.
Yep.
You know, the explosion. Sure. Why not? It'd be fun. It's a learning thing. But it just hasn't happened to me, and I can't expect it to. The word expect I've grown to hate. I'll never, I personally, that it just doesn't work for me. It does work for some people. It does. I know Matt Fraser very well, and his whole thing was high expectations.
Yep.
And it tortured him, and it made him who he was. But, you know, Michael Jordan, high expectations, Kobe Bryant, the list goes on and on. Champions have high expectations. High expectations will destroy your mentality. It will destroy your mind. The very word to expect means that you're predicting the future. You can't predict the future. That's insane. You're being insane, right? But it takes a level of insanity to be a champion. I know that, and I don't think that again that virality thing is going to happen to me in YouTube, and I don't think it's going to happen in music. But it doesn't matter, because if I see a window to improve, it's what's better than that. What's better than being like, you know, like why do people want more than that? Like, one of the most moving podcasts I ever heard was Derek Sivers on Tim Ferriss's podcast. You know Tim Ferriss?
Yeah.
4 Hour Work Week and 4 Hour Body. Derek Sivers was the creator of this thing called CD Baby. And CD Baby still exists. I used to use it when I was releasing music before. Sorry, I'm getting a bunch of text messages. They need to get out of here. But anyways, CD Baby, he was a musician, and he wanted a way to be able to sell his CDs. And like he just like he didn't really get it. So he actually built the like buy button for CDs. Like it had never been done before. He went to like a Walgreens and said, okay, you guys sell this CD for, I think it was $10 to $12. Walgreens, you know what a Walgreens is,
Yep.
or CVS? Yeah. I don't know the equivalent or
It's
whatever
like
in
a
the
boot,
UK.
like a Boots, like a pharmacy slash toiletries store.
Exactly. I think it was like, they're like, oh, well, we take $5. And he goes, great, thank you. Leaves. He goes and builds this website. He calls it CD Baby, and he wants to sell his album. I'm going to take $5 or something like that. Or no, I'm just going to sell my album here. Other bands were like, hey, can we sell our albums there? They would go up to him. They're like, this is cool as hell. Like, you do this online? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'll sell your albums. I'll just take $5. They're like, great, cool. And he did that, and he just built the first distribution system. Like, that was it. He was the first. And he, like, that buy now button, like, was like him. I think Porn was another one. I don't know if you ever saw that movie where it's like the guys who created how to, like, literally type in your credit card.
That came from Porn.
That came from Porn. Yes, there's a movie. It's really good.
What's it called?
You should definitely check it out. I don't know.
I wish you'd given me more there, because the search terms for this are going to be interesting.
Yeah, you're right.
This is just a trap.
Like porn movie.
Well played, Zack.
Porn movie. Yeah. Just search porn movie. You'll be fine. No. But and so he did this, and I don't think he raised his prices for like 2 years, and he was making $1 million a month, cold hard, like takeaway, $1 million a month, like continuously, month over month over month over month, and his business expanded a little bit. He actually might have made a little bit more from month to month, but just a little bit. Okay. And he was living his life. He had endless VCs, endless other companies saying, hey, don't you want more? Don't you want to expand? Don't you want to optimize? And he said, no, I'm good. And he's like, because I did that, I never lost money. I never took an L my entire time owning CDBB. I think he's since sold it or whatever. And he alludes it to this one thing. And this, honest to God, this changed my mindset forever. He was like, to my office, it was, I would ride my bike to my office. And one day I was like, I want to see how fast I can get there. And he's like, I'm not kidding you. I put my head down. I put my headphones in. I went full speed. And by the time I got to my office, I was cooked, man. It was crazy. It was like, I went as fast as I could. It took me 26 minutes. And then a few days later, he's like, I'm going to go at a leisurely stroll. I'm going to chill. I'm going to look at the sights as I go. I'm going to look at the trees, the flowers, relax, smile, sing along to the music in my headphones. He's like, I got there in 29 minutes. So I had a wonderful 29 minutes, or I could have a painstaking 26 minutes. What am I gaining from those 3 minutes of time? Nothing. I mean, virtually nothing. Maybe you were able to do something in those 3 minutes that you couldn't do before, but you're out of breath. You're feeling it. And he's like, why not just say no to the things that potentially optimize, where you're at? If you're able to be successful and see results with whatever this simple thing is to you, like if something comes easy to you and it bears results, oh my God, do not change anything. Okay? Which, by the way, mind you, coming from a fitness influencer is the last thing I should say if I want to make money off of you. If I want to make money off of you, I need to tell you what you're doing is wrong.
And
right?
You have the solution. Yeah.
And I have the solution. But what I'm telling you is if you are getting results, if you're gaining muscle and you're getting stronger and you're losing weight or whatever it is, don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with anyone. Keep doing your thing. Do you know how freeing that is? Like it's I'm telling you, this changed my life. And I listened to it. It was probably 5 years ago or 6 years ago or something where I heard this exact thing. I'll send you the link to this podcast. It's brilliant, mate. It's brilliant. So he's like, his whole thing was like, learn to say no, which has since been adopted by many CEOs. But I think that, combining his creation of CD Baby, the bike ride analogy, right? That metaphor, and just learning to say no has just been, it's been amazing. It's very freeing, you know?
So how do you apply that to the trajectory you're on with music? Because music, I can imagine, creatively is very freeing in and of itself, because you are creating something out of nothing. Obviously, there's chords and words that you're working with, but does it mean that your passion for your craft, there's no pressure for you to produce by a certain point? Gigs are purely fun. Do you just have a completely positive relationship with that output for the time being?
Yes, and I see the window of improvement. I've hit it. So I'm going to keep hitting it. That's it. There's no, hey, let's do more than that. Like, let's just chill a little bit and keep, you know, I have the studio booked for next week. It's the first time I've been in the studio to do something like, to do a couple tracks in a while. I purposefully took time to like settle on the music that I do have and promote that. I take gigs that are like, I take gigs sparingly, like big gigs. I take them sparingly because that's not going to help me improve. Like, it's just going to cause stress. It's going to cause deadlines that I don't need. Um, you know, and again, on the other side of this, I think you're going to resonate with this a lot, is you do need to have something that will push your tempo just a little bit more. And that would be competition. So, or something that, you know, for you, it's like, I'm going to do this ultra on this date.
Yeah, it's just skin in the game. Some sort of timeline to work towards. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I would say earlier on, maybe you just stack those over and over and over and over and over again. And then now you can take bigger time in between each one of those. But that's basically it. You know, that's basically been my philosophy through training. 100% that's been my philosophy through training, you know, and it's my philosophy in music. And another thing I see myself getting into is documentary film. I have a few topics and I'm trying to get these things in the works. But I think documentary is probably my next venture as well. And that's something that's going to be, you know, that's not crazy to think about doing, you know, and I could do one for my YouTube channel.
Yep.
I could do one behind a little paywall. I could do, you know, that's not a very difficult thing to wrap my head around. And I would have the same process there.
And you've got iterations of that process as well, which is key. And I see, I mean, I couldn't begin to understand what the process is to score and create music. But it's the way I view it is almost like I can edit chronologically. I've handed all the editing over because I'm not as good as others at it, but I can edit chronologically. But when I've always been most impressed with edits and outputs is when creatives take this smorgasbord of footage and work backwards from it and pull a narrative to create the output in a completely non-chronological way.
Doesn't that stress you out just thinking about
I can't even, I was stammering trying to say it. I can't even do it. And it's just,
I know, yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? But
I know exactly what,
music's the same, I see. So I think your experience of going through the iterations of YouTube stacked against the sort of creating out of nothingness with music puts you in a fantastic position to create documentaries.
Okay. You always have to have your, not like, what is the word that I'm always thinking about? It's like something, it's not fall back, but it's like, okay, so for me, it's like, I want this song to sound good if it's just me holding an acoustic guitar singing to you.
Okay.
And if you say that's good, everything else is great. Because now I can go into the studio and be like, hey, wait. We're getting way ahead of ourselves. You know, because, dude, you want to talk about options? Holy shit. The studio is crazy. Crazy. We have 6 different guitars minimum we could use on one of the tracks that we could do. We could do 1,000 different tracks stacked up on top of each other to make a song. And we could use for 5 different guitar tracks, we could use 6 to 10 different guitars. Right there, that's like, I don't even know the math on how many different options there are. Then, after that, you have inputs that are in the software. So you have like different pedals and sounds that you can make within that. You have different amps that you can use within that. You can, this is where like we do a take and we're like, what if we try this? What do you do? Take, what if we try this? And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. This started with just me playing an acoustic guitar. Like let's go back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm getting a little too far, and I think anything creative, it has to be good with the minimum amount of equipment. So if you think about a documentary, like if I had my iPhone, it would still be interesting.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
And you've actually developed that skill, haven't you? Because when you were traveling, you couldn't be bothered with heavy duty equipment and got comfortable using an iPhone, which mean that you meant diluted down. Oh, this is actually fine because the base, the foundation is solid. So then everything else is just
the video I did with you was entirely on the iPhone. I forgot. Yeah. And so when me and you are both stressing out thinking about a documentary that has
my heart rate's up for sure.
It's crazy, right? But now you have to think like if all we had was an iPhone and a linear timeline, it would still be interesting. Okay, now you're okay.
Yep.
It's the options, it's the new things. And again, this goes back to that Derek Sivers thing. It's like, wait a minute. You're telling me I can make $1 million a month, cold hard cash, and you're making me stressed?
Yep.
No. That's not how this works. I found something that works here, so I'm gonna relax and enjoy my bike ride. I think that Americans cannot handle that.
No, it's not. It's the land of excess. It's not. It's weird. I often think about this. My biggest takeaway from America. I don't mean this to sound critical in any way, but it's an obsession with more. More isn't even enough. More isn't a powerful enough word. It's got to be more than more. There is no limit.
Yes,
it is excessive, and I think it's something that even if you're comfortable and content with your day to day, there's just this conditioning that goes. I mean, I fall into this trap. I'm a very intense, driven, ambitious bloke, which means that I often wrestle with, well, I want to grow, I want to develop, I want more this, more that, the trackable metrics. But then it's like, well, actually, where is the line? Where do you draw the line? And that's a difficult question to answer.
So this is a thing that I'm very infatuated with. I would say, I have a black belt in weightlifting and weightlifting content. Okay.
So.
I would also say that I have close to a black belt in understanding charlatanism. That was what, Derek and we did the Liver King Lie. I've talked about this on my channel. Like, this is something that I'm very interested in and I think a lot about. And I talk with a lot of people about this concept. And I think at its core, that is fundamentally the issue that we run into is like, if these charlatans just didn't try to over optimize and go more, right? Because their ideas are actually sound and they would actually be successful and happy with those sound ideas. Without this idea of like, I want to take over the planet.
Yeah.
Right. Why the fuck is Logan Paul coming out with Crypto Zoo? Why? You just did Prime. Like, you're good. You're fine. Just relax. Collect your checks. Smile. Like, why are you doing that? And it's because that's what we do in America.
And we
are.
The only downstream effect of that is negative. That nobody won in that situation. There was no, against the context of Prime, which is still growing, as you said, that should have been stuck there.
Yes.
The Crypto Zoo facade, everybody lost. Everyone. And
Everyone did.
That was a byproduct of the excess.
Especially, I mean, I hate saying especially Logan Paul as if he's a victim, but it is like, to me, it's like, that is the fundamental issue. Just accept the wins that you have for a moment, for a fucking second, and no one seems to be able to do that. I think about Liver King as well. Dude, did you know that Liver King, and this is something that Mark Bell told me, is like the guy for desiccated organs in North America. So if you are making supplements using desiccated organs, you're likely wholesaling through him.
Was that how he made his money in the first place?
Yeah, and then he has a bunch of, if you're wholesaling, you could also, you could run the monopoly as well. And like, so we can assume that this dude was making millions, and then he just created this massive lie.
Yeah.
Again, the ideas behind organ meat and all of that are actually pretty sound. But
extrapolated to the nth degree. Yeah, it's never
don't
enough.
settle.
Yeah.
Be crazy. Go hard. Go be more. Do more. And I think part of it is just this ideology, but then also we tend to applaud the winners in those situations.
Yeah.
We were, as much as we thought that we didn't like the Liver King and that he was lying, he was still famous as it gets. And people were like, you know what? Screw it. I still like
you looked at the comments, people were coming around to it. And that's a whole separate narrative on looking for solutions out of desperate situations and things like that we won't pull the thread on. But I think we've landed exactly where I expected and hoped we would land, which is a bit of a brief overview of some of our, I'll say politely, gripes with the industry in which we operate currently.
Yes.
So I think we should play a game of, for PR purposes, we'll call fitness industry improvement tennis with Zack to serve, and we'll go back and forth. We'll label something that we think could be improved within the fitness industry, and we'll discuss why we think it could, for what benefit, for what gain, and we'll go back and forth until we decide that we've run out of time when we're done, and look forward to hearing what people agree or disagree with. So, Zack, hit me. First thing that you think can be improved about the fitness industry. Go.
Ooh, I don't necessarily know off the bat. I'll have to get going on this, like worked up. But there's something that I've noticed recently in the fitness industry is that it has become a style niche, or a like makeup tutorials, or being edgy and goth, or like I imagine high school kids. It's like, you are, what's your thing? Like, are you a jock? Are you a goth kid? Are you a drama kid? Are you a musician? Are you a hippie? Are you a fitness kid? That's a new
I know
thing.
exactly what you mean as well. Basically, are you wearing alpha flies?
Yes, that was not a thing, dude. Fitness was never that. It was never, but now it is, especially in the Instagram space. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to get away from that.
No.
But like, kids are like, oh, this is another route that I can go. It's not really a lifestyle. This is more of
it's an aesthetic.
What kind of kid are you? Yeah. What kind of guy are you? What kind of girl are you? What kind of whatever are you? It's like, I'm a fitness person.
It's not inherently a bad thing, because essentially if somebody is modeling their lifestyle off the back of fitness as a net result of many years of people promoting a lifestyle of fitness, you're right though. It's where did we cross the threshold, and how much is this snowballing out of control as to the facade of fitness? That's not new, whereby the word fitness, I mean, one of my points is on exactly this, but essentially, where does fitness stop being fitness and it just becomes a choice of activewear clothing with some bells and whistles?
Yeah, but you also have to be hot, right?
Yeah. To blow up and succeed, it's a big part of it. Yeah.
Again, this is going to sound like resentful from, like, this is just an observation. Like, if you are a good-looking person, relatively low body fat, like, you don't even have to perform that well. I'll probably get, flamed for this, but it's like, and honestly, like, that's always been the case, right?
Yeah.
Forever.
So I think it feeds nicely into
care about good-looking people.
My return serve is, and I struggle with this a bit, given that I put content online, but my ethos is training first, content second. And I feel in the past 12 months especially, I'm going to say TikTok's to blame, that's flipped for the most part, where the entry point to fitness for people is content rather than fitness, rather than the other way around. And I think with that has come the sort of Joey Swole response videos and all of the stuff that we're seeing in gyms all over the place, with teenagers giving side-eye to people walking past their water bottle too quickly, and everything that's gone with it. But I think nothing gets in the way of my training more and pisses me off more about something I'm passionate about than having to film a video whilst I'm doing a training session. And the sad reality is, I document my training sessions on my YouTube channel. That's a core component of it. But it really frustrates me because it gets in the way of the training. And I'm glad that I've held on to that. But then I'll see things which are purely derived for content's sake. And if tripods can't be used in gyms, there's videos of kids that leave the gym because tripods aren't allowed. So they don't train. And I don't know when that happened. I don't know when content became the priority over the training. But I would love to see a move back to training first, content second in the social media / fitness space.
Yeah, I mean that those two are like feed directly into each other, right? That's basically essentially that's it, right?
Yeah.
If you want to get into fitness, like you better have a camera. That's where we're at right now. Okay, let me think of another one here. My gripes with fitness. I think I think this obsession with hypertrophy, as if it's not something that you can also do while trying to remain somewhat athletic or functional, is crushing to me. And it's particularly with the squat. We have bastardized the purpose of the squat entirely. Because the moment that, like, I've made a few videos where it's like, a lot of people, they'll say, you shouldn't squat. You're not built to squat. You don't have to squat. What those are, and there's a lot of people that do that. And mind you, like, Greg Doucette's one of them. And I DM Greg, like, Greg and I are on speaking terms. Like, we talk to each other relative, like, a decent amount. And I made a retort to that, being like, it does build the straw man where I'm like, if you're not squatting, you're an idiot. It's like, no, my process is like, it is worthwhile developing the flexibility and mobility to do a proper low squat, like full range of motion back squat. And the moment I say something like that, they're like, all I'm trying to do is grow the muscles in my legs. I don't need the back squat to do that. And I go, okay, totally understand that, right? Like, your only goal is hypertrophy. Fine. Like, let's just eliminate all functionality and like only grow that muscle. Fine. That's great. But I think there's more to human life than that. And I think that the very process of being in the gym should consider that. That is my opinion. People can totally disagree with that. Mike Isertel, who I have a lot of connections with, he's actually gone all in on this. Like, he thinks the front squat is idiotic. Don't do the front squat. Don't do it at all. Don't do it at all. Whereas I think the front squat is probably the greatest movement.
My hands down favorite and most effective squat and deadlift assistance exercise. Paused beltless front squats. Always have been, always will be. I'm confident with that.
Low front squat. As far as human function goes, and like health and overall just rigidity and strength and toughness, I believe the front squat to be number one. And yet it just, no matter what is said, because it's not blatant hypertrophy, it's discounted. There is no room for nuance there. And like, again, Mike Isertel, that's his whole thing is like, do you want bigger legs or not? Like, there's no need to do the front squat. Again, that argument can be made. But I think it is worthwhile to build, you want bigger legs? Cool, you can get bigger legs. But you can also be a strong, athletic, healthy individual.
Those
two things are not mutually exclusive.
There's byproducts, aren't there? It's very, very aligned with the notion of the interference effect, which I obviously come up against and argue on a lot, which is essentially the previous consideration was it was an on and an off switch in that mTOR downregulated AMPK and therefore no adaptation could occur because you've done some cardio or vice versa. When in reality, it just reduces the adaptation slightly. Does that mean that you can't adapt? No. Does it mean you'll adapt less? Yes, but if you make your peace with that, then that's fine. In the same way that you're maybe not getting 100% hypertrophy with front squats, for example, but if you're getting 80% hypertrophy and upper back strength and core strength, hip mobility, positioning, full range of motion, then surely that's an effective movement overall. It's same line of argument.
Notice your verbiage there. You said less. You're still gaining. You're just making less gains. This has been the thesis throughout our entire podcast today, right? Like this, the enemy is this word optimization, optimal, optimize. Like we don't have any time to not be optimal. What's the best route? What's the best thing? What's the coolest thing? What's the greatest thing? We need to know the best.
So this feeds directly into my next point, which is the overemphasis on quote-unquote recovery protocols. When the vast majority of people are shouting the loudest about this and the vast majority of people are sleuthing the internet looking for the next thing they can spend hundreds of pounds or dollars on to level up their recovery, train hard, recover harder, bro, are the people that are training too much without any specificity in the first place. You are not going to red light therapy your way out of being overtrained because you did 14 different functional fitness AMRAPs with your friends morning and evening and didn't sleep effectively whilst working your ass off, hustling all day, every day. You're not going to ice bath your way out of that. You're not going to be able to recovery protocol this, recovery protocol that. You're not going to be able to replace the basics if you're not sleeping well, eating well, hydrating well, and training effectively. Which, I mean, do you know a single person that has 100%, you can look them in the eye and they 100% nail their sleep, nail their food, nail their hydration, nail their electrolytes, nail their training without any deviation? I don't. Which means that for the vast majority of people, the 1%, the grain of sand at the top of the pyramid need not apply to the vast majority of people where the basics could be better executed. That's my that's my next.
Yeah, no, that is yeah, I think I was probably going to go down that route as well. Stan Efferding says you're stepping over $100 bills to pick up the quarters.
Yeah,
or
that's
nickels,
it. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. The just the misinterpretation of intensity when you need it and when you don't is. But again, this comes from just being an idiot. You got to be an idiot. You have to have a phase where it's like, there has to be a phase where you don't recover well. I'm not very recovered well. I traveled all day yesterday, and then I slept like shit last night, and then I went and trained. I wasn't like, hey guys, I'm sorry, I can't make training today in Miami, like because I slept 6 hours. You gotta go for things like that. I think, we are what we say. So yes, if you're continuously saying how great cold plunging and sauna is, like that's probably not a good thing unless you're hitting your sleep and nutrition and hydration and so on and so forth. So yeah, I agree 100%.
Next up, you got anything sitting there, or should I hit another one that I think you'll actually argue against me on this one? I
should have. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So I think the vast majority of barbells at gyms should have center knurling, but the vast majority don't.
Why?
Because I think where center knurling need not apply, i.e. in more Olympic lifting dominant movements, the majority of gym users don't need those barbells and would in fact benefit from having a little bit more stability on their upper back or in a hip thrust if pressed against a pad or something, versus not having a slippery barbell. There's commercial gym chains over in the UK where they've got cheap barbells, no center knurling, and they're slippy bars. Hot, sweaty gyms, training session, loose barbell on your back, maybe a bit of an experience, higher risk factor. And when I have to use those when traveling and load 200 kilos plus in a low bar position without center knurling, I shit myself a little bit. So that's my thesis.
Yeah. I think, the low bar squat is a very interesting one. And that's like, for me, that's the reality is why you would need a center knurl, is like you're optimizing for a competition style squat. Yeah, this really gets into the weeds.
It does.
But I kind of, yeah, it really does. I don't like to just like argue versus low bar and high bar squat because there's so many different, there's so many different like routes we can go down. I would say, I would like to develop someone in their just full depth body weight squat. The absolute rarity that I see somebody sitting in depth in like any movement it's like it doesn't exist. And then when you put a barbell on someone's back, it's like for sure not going to happen. Right? It's going to be this really awkward, grindy type of squat. And so in that sense, it's like, okay, well, if that's your baseline squat, let's not squat. Let's get on let's listen to the masses and be like, you don't need to squat. You shouldn't squat. You don't have to squat. But you never developed the movement itself. You never developed the biomechanics of the squat that I would like in the first place. Regardless of barbell, I think sometimes we avoid, if you have a center knurl and you're going low bar, you're just avoiding that thing that you potentially don't have in the first place. I'm not really arguing against you. I'm just kind of like,
you just don't know. It's an attack on powerlifters in general. I sense. But the best example, I agree. The best example of the perfect squat. If you look at a kid, pick something up, the way they just sit down upright.
Right.
However, they don't complain about femur length. They don't complain about leverages.
Exactly.
It's just perfect positioning, and I think there is a lot of base work to be done on proficiency before my knurling gripe becomes an issue. I'm just attacking pure gym, and the gym has changed in the UK for anyone listening, because the amount of times I've been a little bit hot and sweaty, racked a barbell and thought I'm going to die is something that I thought I'd bring up. But here's
one. I think if you're gonna mess with the snatch and the clean and jerk, you better be athletic and be willing to up your frequency. The biggest issue with CrossFit is that you might snatch and clean and jerk specifically and work on those things specifically, not in a Metcon setting once a week. And it's like, well, okay, well, no wonder the form is bad. No wonder the intensity, it just outweighs the actual technicality of the movement. It's because you're not practicing it. And so if you're gonna do those movements, do them frequently. And have a coach who's there with you, who remembers your movement. That's like a lot of it too. It's not even programming that I really give a shit about. It's like, what is each individual's struggle with? And like, I remember, because I worked with you 2 days ago on the snatch. Remember, you kept messing up here, here, and here. This is what I'm going to do with you. And that's different from you to you. It's not necessarily a programming thing. It's more of a frequency issue. So that would be one of my gripes. If you're going to do the snatch and clean and jerk, you better be willing to do it 3 times a week.
Olympic lifting is such an art, man. It's such a beautiful endeavor, and you're right. It requires such laser focus, and I think attention to detail on the individual is huge for sure.
But in certain aspects, it's really not that difficult. Like if you want to be a good snatcher and clean and jerker, it's like anything. It gets hard when it gets hard.
Yeah.
And then you have to dial it in and become laser focused. But I've seen athletes first, day one, do a power clean with good technique as anyone.
Yep.
And they're just good athletes.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, we can do this once a week. Absolutely we can. But it's like in CrossFit, they're asking athletes to do a full snatch or a full clean and jerk. And then to max that out. Like, okay, well, now we're done. Now we're doing stupid shit.
He says ready to go to Waterpalooza over the next couple of days. We'll be witnessing lots of this firsthand. But that's the CrossFitters move the elite. Oh, they really do. It's the compromise lifting in recreational settings is where CrossFit's got a bad name over the years, but
of course
it's improved massively, of course. So my next gripe is what I'm going to call the third down theory. And that is that my overwhelming experience from going to an NFL game was my very British disdain for how much celebration there was whenever an NFL team secured or retrieved, I don't know the terminology, a third down, which meant or got essentially when they get to third down,
first down.
Yeah, first down. But no, when it went from a third down to a first down, because that's a nice reset. That sort of most muscular pose for a moment, the woo, let's go sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's obviously the Brit in me, but I think the fitness industry tendency to preface, end, or default to that at any given opportunity when there's not really been anything to warrant such behavior is becoming is becoming too common for my liking, and I'm going to call it the unnecessary competitiveness that goes with the ego bros. We had a conversation, I won't name where unless you're happy to, but essentially you and I both, if we were to jump into a functional fitness workout where everybody was sort of eyeing each other up and going toe to toe on the rowing machine and the next thing, when in reality there's no competition, there's no league table, everybody's just here to work out and go home. Yeah. If somebody was sort of eyeing me up and trying to one up, I just don't get it. I'm just not interested in that in that setting. And I think that constant day-to-day I need to one up the person next to me at all times mentality that manifests itself online, I'm saying flippantly, through the first down mentality, right, is something that I personally don't love. But maybe that's just because I'm not that competitive anymore in anything, and I'm very, very British.
It works. It works, though. It's all they want in football practice. It's all they want in rugby practice. It's all they want in any practice. Like, the tougher the room, the tougher you will be. The more elevated your abilities will be. If you're trying to beat the guy across from you and he's very good, like let's say he's better than the guy in the other gym that you don't get to train with, the moment you go in the other gym, you're going to beat that guy because you've been going against someone who's harder. And so like that is the reality of it. But we're talking about 30-year-old finance job guy in the CrossFit gym challenging you. Yes. That's obnoxious, stupid. Right. That's just male egotistical shit. But I'm saying from like a competitive, like if you're an actual competitor, that's the tough part about practice. Is like,
I think there's merit to. I think there's an argument for the externalization of it though, versus because interesting that you mentioned, football versus rugby in this case. I feel that rugby players' competitiveness is much more measured and internal and sort of in the shadows, even though it's going on. Whereas, maybe it's just an American versus British thing or American versus rugby play nations thing. But the externalization of that competition is so much more tangible. I don't know why that is. Could just be cultural, but it's the celebrating the small wins on the football field. It's the 30-year-old finance bro manifesting that into going 135 on a rowing machine that I just don't vibe with.
Right. Yeah. So I'm totally agree with you. One of the ones is like, okay, this guy constantly like chipping at like when I was competitive in CrossFit, I was coaching at this gym and you know, a lot of the members, they would go after me and all this. But then when the Open came and we had a judge, you had to stand there and it was like, hey, you know, you're on an island for 15 straight minutes working out and you have one person watching you. Why is your score so shitty? You were always beating me, you know, quote unquote. You're always trying to be competitive with me, and now you're not even close to me. That's like you're celebrating the win that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So,
that's the exact phrase that fuck first down theory. Celebrating the win that doesn't exist theory. We'll go with that. That's a much better way of putting it.
Exactly. Like you haven't won shit.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But those people are always going to exist, especially. You know, again, I say 30-year-old finance bros because those are the most competitive motherfuckers at their job.
They are. You
know,
and they need to translate.
A single 30-year-old finance bro. Yes, they're not switching that off in a CrossFit gym, which is so cute.
One of my best friends is a 29-year-old finance bro, and his passion for competitive fitness is insulting to everyone else, in fact. And he actually trained for and he went sub 9 in an Ironman last year rather, which is to have the finance bro obnoxiousness to be able to do that is actually quite remarkable. So Tom, if you're listening, well done, but we all know why. It's because you're an incessant 29-year-old finance bro.
But he probably had his ego beat down a little bit in that process. To get sub 9.
I'd say so. I'd say the whole process was just wrestling with his ego day to day.
So martial arts gyms, you know, particularly jiu-jitsu, which I have experience in, it's like you'll get the shit beaten out of you. Like because you're against a training partner who's better than you. So doesn't matter how competitive you get, like it doesn't matter how hard you try. You have to learn how to be quiet.
That's the great example, because if you go into if you go into a BJJ or any martial arts gym with a big ego and you're sort of prodding and poking and trying to be the big man in the room, no, people will laugh at you. They won't. It's not respect. Respect to be earned in that setting, of course, but you're not taken seriously until actually you let that part of you settle down, which I think is.
Look, if you're kicking ass, though, like that. Seriously, if you're a beast, like, but the reality is that's never actually happened before. The only people that kick ass in jiu-jitsu have put time into that shit, and have gotten their ass beat, bro. Destroyed, to the point where it's like I go on the, you got to go on the mats and you're like, whatever happens, comes to you. But it's a great thing. CrossFit, there is no opponent. It's just kind of like you versus you, and you can kind of cheat that. I've seen guys, they shave reps, they do all these things. Like it happens it's not just CrossFit. It happens in just
happens everywhere.
In general.
It happens everywhere. Yeah.
But in jiu-jitsu, it's you versus someone else, and you can't shave anything off. The guy beat you. He beat you bad.
And it's a very primal beating when you're gasping for air or coming back from consciousness. There's nowhere really to hide there. That does things to an ego, doesn't it? When your eyes are opening and you think, "Oh shit, I lost."
The best is too, you don't just lose and then the match is over in training. You lose and you go, "Okay, let's go. We're going again."
Yep.
You lose, let's go again. You lose, let's go again. It's like that's when you really see that person get broken down, man. They're like, no, give me a second. They're like, oh, no, we gotta go. We're training here. Training's not over. The clock's still got 3 minutes left. That's the best.
My business partner Johnny's background's in combat sports, and I think it's what makes him a measured man rather than a chaotic man. And I think he'd be, for sure, he'd be perfectly happy with me saying that. But he sees an enormous amount of that. I mean, he's had background in bare knuckle boxing and things, and sort of seen fights that are less regulated, shall we say, and the amount of value that he sees in the regulation and respect that surrounds these things from an ego management point of view is amazing. And that's what, I mean, we've discussed this. That's why I love training the way I do, is because it's just me versus progression. And that's why I don't get there have been people in the past 6 to 12 months, because this space has been blowing up more, that are trying to drag me into beef or competition. I'm like, I just don't care. I genuinely do not care. I just like doing my own thing because it's rewarding and valuable. And if that happens to be something that other people resonate with, then that's a fantastic bonus. And I'm going to keep doing that. And I think that's where, 30-year-old finance bros, to be clear, we love you, but it's just I don't resonate with that. Any wins I'll celebrate are going to be very clear, definable wins. I think I like to enjoy the process and sort of work quietly in the shadows and then celebrate the win when the win's there.
Exactly.
I do feel so British, saying just settle down there, old boy.
No. There's room for that for sure. I think in fitness specifically, and in America, I think martial arts is really the only place where we have that kind of tampering of the ego in such a blatant and awesome way.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. Well, Zach, it is getting late over here in the UK, and I'm conscious that you have a very busy schedule that you only just were told about this morning. So I want to thank you very much. Best place for people to find you is
youtube.com/@Zack Telander or coach_ZT on Instagram.
And you will be surprised at the range and variety Zach has across all things. And the person, if you're watching, the person you're looking at is, again, I expected rock music. It's not. So you can go and find out for yourself. It borders it, It's Americana is what we call it. I like that.
Americana, country rock.
No, it is genuinely, I was very positively shocked and surprised at what you sent over, and really, really did enjoy it. And I wish you all the very best for the continued growth, and very reassuring and exciting to hear that it's just a process that you're really enjoying and loving, because creative outlets like that, I think, if they are giving and fulfilling, are really, really powerful things. So thank you for today's conversation. Much enjoyed. And I'm sure I'll see you very soon.
Thanks for having me.